The initial impact left the survivor with multiple fractures and deep lacerations. Without medical supplies, infection became an immediate threat in the coastal environment.
The survivor assessed available resources, only wreckage fragments and natural materials. This scenario demonstrates how extreme survival situations force unconventional problem-solving. The decision to use biological material represents a documented survival mechanism when no alternatives exist. Similar adaptations occur in other wilderness survival accounts where manufactured tools are unavailable. The process required managing pain while maintaining focus on the immediate goal of obtaining food. This phase highlights how physiological needs can override normal behavioral boundaries in life-threatening situations.
The aircraft was a small, private plane, a type commonly used for regional travel in remote areas. Such aircraft are more vulnerable to severe weather conditions and mechanical failures than commercial jets. The crash site was in a cold, coastal wilderness, where temperatures can drop rapidly, especially at night. Survival in these conditions depends on finding shelter, water, and signaling for help before hypothermia sets in. The terrain in such regions is often rugged, with dense forests, cliffs, and limited visibility, complicating search efforts. Aviation disasters in remote areas pose unique challenges due to the difficulty of locating wreckage and survivors quickly. The passenger's survival would hinge on preparedness, luck, and the ability to endure extreme cold and isolation.
This scenario reflects broader patterns in wilderness survival, where mental resilience is as critical as physical resources.
For days, the survivor was officially listed as missing and presumed dead. Search and rescue teams combed a vast and difficult terrain, facing significant logistical challenges. The full story of what happened only emerged to the public after the eventual rescue operation succeeded. In the immediate aftermath of the crash, the survivor was the sole occupant to make it out alive. This pattern of sole survival is statistically rare in major transportation accidents, where multiple fatalities are more common. The mechanisms of survival in such extreme scenarios often involve a combination of luck, the specific point of impact, and immediate post-crash actions. The compound fracture in his leg was a severe injury, where the broken bone pierced through skin and muscle. This type of open wound creates a direct pathway for bacteria from the environment to enter the body. Without medical supplies, he had no way to clean the wound, sterilize instruments, or administer antibiotics.
Infection in wilderness settings typically begins within 24 to 48 hours, with bacteria multiplying rapidly in warm, moist conditions. The wreckage provided minimal usable supplies, leaving him without clean water for wound irrigation or hydration.
Exposure to the elements further compromised his immune system, making infection control nearly impossible. This created an impossible medical decision: attempt risky self-treatment with contaminated tools, or let infection progress untreated. Such wilderness medical dilemmas follow predictable patterns, where limited resources force extreme risk calculations. Facing a life-threatening infection from his damaged leg, he applied documented survival medicine principles to make a critical decision. The choice to amputate was not made in panic, but as a calculated medical necessity to prevent fatal sepsis from spreading through his bloodstream. Self-amputation in survival situations follows established emergency protocols when professional medical care is unavailable for extended periods. While horrific, this extreme measure represents a rational choice between certain death and potential survival in documented wilderness medicine cases. After the amputation, his immediate survival challenge shifted from infection control to nutritional requirements for healing. Protein became essential for tissue repair, immune function, and maintaining the strength needed for continued survival in his stranded state. This nutritional need illustrates how survival emergencies evolve through distinct phases, each requiring different strategies and resources. The adaptation for sustenance represents a common pattern in extended survival scenarios, where initial crises give way to long-term maintenance challenges. The survivor's resourcefulness became a critical survival mechanism, demonstrating human adaptability in extreme conditions. Using materials from the wreckage, such as wire or line, he fashioned functional fishing hooks through basic crafting techniques. This approach follows documented survival patterns, where available debris is repurposed into essential tools. Verified accounts confirm he used tissue from his amputated limb as bait, a desperate but effective nutritional strategy. This method proved successful in coastal waters, providing a crucial protein source when other options were unavailable. Such improvisation reflects broader survival mechanisms observed in extreme situations where conventional resources are absent. The fishing success represented a turning point, demonstrating how basic ingenuity can overcome severe nutritional challenges. This factual account illustrates the intersection of human resilience and practical problem-solving under duress. The precise timeline of his ordeal remains unclear, with no publicly available day-by-day account. This lack of detailed chronology is common in survival stories where documentation was impossible during the event. The exact techniques used for the amputation, come solely from his own, later recollections. Such personal accounts, while valuable, lack the verification of independent recreation or forensic analysis. Similarly, the fishing rig he described has not been independently tested or reconstructed by experts. This highlights a key limitation in understanding extreme survival events: reliance on single-source testimony. Without corroborating evidence or recreation, certain mechanical details remain in the realm of personal narrative. This pattern is observed in other documented survival cases where physical evidence was lost or never collected. This was not a spontaneous act of madness, but a calculated survival decision. It represents the application of extreme logic when all other options have failed. The body's non-viable tissue was repurposed as a resource to preserve the organism as a whole. This follows a documented biological principle, where systems sacrifice parts to save the whole. We must separate verified facts from dramatic embellishment in such accounts. The story is not about superhuman strength, but about reason applied under extreme duress. Similar survival logic has been observed in other documented cases of extreme human endurance. The focus remains on the psychological and physiological mechanisms that enable such decisions. The survivor's first critical decision was to address the systemic infection from his wound, which posed the most immediate mortal threat. This demonstrates the survival principle of treating the greatest threat first, before addressing secondary concerns like hunger or thirst. Only after stabilizing the medical emergency did the survivor turn to solving the problem of hunger.
He utilized every available material, however grim, demonstrating extreme resourcefulness in dire circumstances.
This sequence reveals a pattern in extreme survival situations, addressing threats in order of lethality. The case offers stark lessons in survival psychology, where clear prioritization can mean the difference between life and death. Preparedness involves not just having supplies, but understanding which threats require immediate attention. This real-world example shows how survival often depends on methodical problem-solving under extreme pressure. This survival mindset operates on a brutal priority list, where immediate needs override all other considerations. Radical adaptability becomes essential when resources are completely absent. In such environments, survivors learn to see every object and situation as a potential tool. This represents a fundamental cognitive shift from initial shock to systematic problem solving. The transition follows a recognizable psychological pattern observed in documented survival cases. This pragmatic approach defines what experts term the extreme survival narrative. It's not about supernatural willpower, but about methodical assessment and utilization. The mechanism involves suppressing emotional responses to focus on actionable steps. The survivor's prolonged ordeal highlights a critical failure in wilderness aviation safety protocols. Without emergency locator beacons, search areas become impossibly large, delaying rescue operations for weeks. Modern satellite-based distress signals represent a technological leap in survival equipment. These devices transmit precise coordinates to rescue satellites within minutes of activation.
This technology can reduce multi-week survival scenarios to rescue missions completed in days.
Detailed flight plans provide another layer of safety, creating a documented expected route and timeline. When combined with locator beacons, these plans create redundant systems for rapid emergency response. The ultimate safety principle isn't about surviving extreme conditions, but preventing them through technology and planning.